Awesome. Well, here we go. Another episode of the Ice Team podcast. I got a dear friend of mine on. Mike and I have known each other, I don't even know.
Decades.
It's been a long time. And we got a lot of fun stories to share. And this is going to be a good one. So without further ado, a lot of you listening or watching it probably know who Mike Rodger is. You've seen him at a sports show. You've seen him on TV. You've seen him on the internet. You've seen him hold trophies in tournaments, all this kind of stuff. So, Mikey, dude, thanks for coming by, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And you got your buddy, Paulie, in the back spooling up reels because you got a big kids event coming up in February.
I do. I got the kids hooked on fishing on February 19th. I didn't know what to think at first, but, man, it's been quite incredible. All the sponsors that have stepped up, the kids that are registering. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll be out there with Clem. I'll be out there with Mike. I know Mike's done these kids events for years and years and years and years, and they've come in all shapes of forms and sizes and different lakes, and now you've kind of taken this one under your own umbrella. It was pretty humbling when Mike called me, it was last spring.
Yeah.
And you were like, hey, dude, I want to do a kids event. I want to kind of take this over, do something on my own. And to see it come to fruition is pretty awesome. I can tell you one thing, and we'll get on with the show, but this is part of the show. This dude puts his mind to something that happens. So not surprised one bit. Super excited, Mike, to be helping you on the 19th. This is going to be a whole lot of fun.
It will be a lot of fun. Yeah. I'm a little nervous about the weather, but I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, we're making ice, and we'll talk about that today. We're making really good ice right now. I mean, at least here in the Twin Cities, the metro, which is where Mike and I spend a lot of our time. Mike's a guide on Lake Mille Lacs as well. And leaps and bounds the last few days.
Yes, incredible. I'm hearing just a minute ago, I got a text over in the North Metro. Some of those are 8-9 inches right now, 10 inches in area. I know your kid was out last night, and he was hitting one of the lakes that I fish a lot, and he said there was 8-inch wheelers running all over the place. But one thing I will stress is that anybody going out, please go with extreme caution. It's been really goofy this year. It might be 8-10 inches here and an inch over there. Just if it looks different, go look and check. Yeah,
you're spot on. And one thing I noticed this year, and it makes sense. I've talked with other people about this as well, because we got this really cold spell recently. Very cold, right? Like below zero every day, maybe a couple digits for highs. And some lakes just weren't gaining ice as fast as you would think. And this is what we discussed, and it makes sense. And if somebody out there listening can tell us otherwise, please do it. This is just our educated guess. We got that warm rain.
Yeah.
And I heard from people when that rain came and knocked their ice down, they got back out in their boats. And they told me that I'm registering mid 40-degree water temps again, right? And we all know how that works. That's the surface temp. It's a couple feet down, whatever. But what happens is that lake crusts over. You get that sheet of ice.
Yeah.
But that water below that ice is still not extremely cold, right? The air temp froze that surface of the ice. Well, now all the water below needs to get to freezing, because we know once the ice cap forms, your ice at that point grows down.
Right.
So if the water beneath it isn't ready to grow ice, guess what? It takes a little time. So I think that's why we saw an awkward delay. Everyone's like, it's zero out. Why aren't we gaining all this ice? Well, it took a couple of days. We got back on track. And now in the last few days, we saw some serious exponential growth.
You know, what I was seeing up by the Leech Lake areas, some of them smaller lakes that I was fishing up there, when that rain came, is what it did is it broke the shoreline up, but everyone thinks that the shoreline eroded. What happened is that ice rose because the water level rose, and that's what broke the shorelines.
Yeah.
Kind of just a weird year, and like I said, extreme caution. I've never seen it like this in my 58 years out there fishing.
Yeah. And it's a good tip anytime, Mike, use safety measures when you go ice fishing. We always joke, and we've said this in other podcasts, we got 2 first ice this year.
Yeah,
and right. So even though it's January, you still might need to spud out. But yeah, we are seeing awesome conditions starting to happen. I mean, I'm going to be out all over the metro this weekend guiding. Everything I've checked recently has been in really good shape. I mean, you're not driving pickup trucks out, so don't think it because it's January 20th this weekend, you can go just drive your truck out. Still practice due diligence. There are places in the ice belt, northern Minnesota. I think Red Lake is letting trucks out and ice castles and things like that. So it's happening in places without a doubt. But if you're listening to this and you're in the metro, you're in the South Metro, you're in southern Minnesota, you're in Iowa, continue to check your ice conditions. There's plenty of opportunity to get out and chase some fish. So, okay, we backtrack a little bit now. Mike, one of the things I ask pretty much all of our guests when they hop on, and this is probably one of my favorite parts of doing the podcast because you and I can talk fishing. I looked at Mike before we kicked this off and I said, hey, dude, do you think we can talk fishing for 75 minutes? And Mike says, just tell me when to quit. So
that's right.
We've had lots of phone calls, lots of time together. But I want to go all the way back to little Mike. How'd you get involved in fishing? What makes you tick? Like, how did the fishing bug get into your blood from a young age, and how did it progress to where you are now as one of our top educators in ice fishing?
Well, as you know, Patrick used to be my partner, he's my brother. So as growing up, we used to ride. We started off fishing the Mississippi River. We grew up in northeast Minneapolis, right up to Silver Lake in New Brighton. That used to be a great crappie lake, but I heard it had a big die-off in the last couple of years. Go out to Moore Lake. We really never caught much there. Our neighbors, Elfern and Ralph Barris, they're both passed on, but they used to take us all the time, and especially Ralph. And that's back then, and that was probably, the late 70s, early 80s, and that's when I was first introduced to artificial bait, plastics, and that came and went, and now it's back. But me and Pat, my dad got us a bicycle built for two, and I always joke about this. We'd strap on the rods and put the tackle box on the back, and Pat always had to be the steerer, the driver up front, which I didn't mind because we'd be heading up 65 just cooking along. I'd be yelling, I'm faster, faster. I'd have my feet up on the little bar and back, and he didn't know. And people would be driving by honking, waving, pointing at me, and I'd be laughing. And I says, Pat, they said faster, and he'd go faster. But yeah, that's a kind of a great story. I love telling it.
I could see that. Now, it kind of came back full circle because in the tournament scene, you cut all the holes.
Oh yeah. He definitely
karma.
He definitely got me back. When me and Pat, when we started the circuit, we weren't partners. But one night we were talking. It was after the season, and he was talking about how his partner just wasn't panning out, and Pat and I have the same work ethic. We both just get down there and grind, and. So my partner was the same way. I'd say, we need to move, and he'd say, well, you go find them, and I'll pack up and we'll go. And I said, no, we find them together, And so I told Pat, I said, well, let's give it a whirl. What we got to lose, And we'd be out there and off in the corner arguing with each other, whatever. But we had that ethic that was extremely well. We both worked hard, and I'd drill the holes. He'd come drop the camera down, and we'd take a peek, and getting back to it, I kind of got into the kids stuff back in the day, and I want to say it was probably mid '80s. There was a gal named Ilo. I can't remember her last name, but she worked with Minaqua for the DNR, and they had a kids deal going on, and I volunteered for that. And that was about the time I saw the first one-man flip over out there that somebody had built. It wasn't nothing like it might have been one of Dave's friends. I don't remember, but that's how kind of I got started in all these kids events. Just watching them, the gratification they get from catching their very first fish.
Yeah. And you've showed a lot of kids, Mike, their very first fish.
I had a friend of mine that I worked with, him and his daughter. She'd never been in a boat, never caught a fish. Never baited a hook, and I said, we're going to get all them first today. And all I could hear her say the whole time we were out there was, this is so awesome. And then when we went in, I said, get over here. She says, what? I said, well, you're the captain now. You're driving. And that was the icing on the cake right there. Yeah. Dad says, well, I guess I got to buy a boat now.
Yeah. She'll remember that her entire life.
Oh, right. And that's all we have is memories. And I stress that more than ever. Fish are a bonus. It's the memories you make. Being out with Mitchell last week out on slough in Devil's Lake. That was such a good time, and there's memories there. That's all memories we have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's awesome. And Mikey talked about tournament days. I first met Mike and Pat. Well, the first time I think I met Pat was after the first few years the UPL started. The UPL's been going on for 22 years, 23 years. And we were a handful of years in, and I was given a seminar at Gander Mountain in Lakeville. This was probably 16, 17, 18 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a while ago. And I was given a seminar, and when the seminar was over, a gentleman comes up to me and he's like, "You mentioned something in your seminar about a fishing league, like ice fishing league, and it was your brother Pat." And he's like, "I didn't know that exists, but I want in." Gave him some information. I think he signed up. And you're right, I don't think you and him were partners at the time. And I remember him telling me, like, I'm a good stick. I think I can hold my own. I'm like, knock yourself out. I think he learned real quick tournament fishing, right? But like Pat, like you said, picks up things real quick. Fast forward, you and him became partners. And I've always bragged about the two of you as tournament anglers. I think you guys are the perfect tournament team. And I say this not because you always won. I mean, you guys came in many times without cashing a check, right? That's tournament fishing. But one of the things that gravitated me towards Pat and Mike more than anyone else is that win, lose, draw, dead last, didn't matter. You were one of the last ones to leave because you were there to help answer questions, show people what works, what didn't work. There might be a kid there at the weigh-in. You took time. I even watched you guys many times when the tournament weigh-in was over and everyone was tired. You'd go back out and go fishing some more to show people how certain things worked and don't work. And I remember right out of the bat, that just caught my eye.
Yeah, when you say that, one of the things that really jumps out at me is when the first electric drill plate auger came out. The first one I tried it, and I hated it. And it wasn't because of the equipment I had. The drill I had was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I switched over to that DeWalt and started drilling holes with it. And Pat used to always tease me because I had that Tanaka power head with that
that's
Nils
right.
bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And he used to, and I think stood about 6 feet tall. He says to me, "You are the only guy on the lake that has ape hangers on your auger." you know. And after that, I sold it, and I've never been back. And I always found it funny that everyone would say, "Well, I'll never go to an electric auger." Man, you see a gas auger now out there, and everybody looks around and say, "What is that noise?"
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, my gas auger will drill your electric auger. Well, that's far from the truth.
And twice as heavy.
Twice as heavy. And a week ago, I was up in the McGregor area. We ended up taking my drill plate and my auger out because it was lighter than the 40 volt. Mm-hmm. Nothing against the 40 volt, but it was just lighter. And we walked like 3.5 miles that day. I'm getting too old for that.
Augers. It's funny. And we all used gas augers at one point. We all leaned on them. I just remember the days, especially weeks like this, where you're messing around with that thing just to get it to run. And then if you don't put it down the right orientation, it bogs down, it floods out itself. I mean, while I loved gas augers and they put a lot of holes on the ice and a lot of fish on the ice for me and clients over the years, I'm very happy I don't need to worry about it. Because my Milwaukee, when I just push a lever, darn, it just works.
Pushes the button. Yeah, you're right. It just works. I used to always say that, the construction guys, they don't quit working because it's, cold outside and their batteries are cold. You just don't see that, the battery coldness. Yeah, it might take a second for them to get going. Once they get going, it's all over with it. Drill all day long then. But yeah, that was, to me, I thought that was one of the biggest. I remember when you guys when Clamp came out with that drill plate, I was putzing around with some kind of concoction myself, and I looked and it came out the drill plate, and I said, "Really, you guys been watching me mess with this thing? And then you had this drill plate? Why don't you just tell me to knock it off?"
You come up with a lot of cool things. Your apparatus for your Vexlar. You took a scoop shovel.
Yes.
Explain that one to our crowd. I mean, maybe we'll get a picture up in one of the comments. It's pretty darn neat.
Yeah. So back in 2017, I got hurt on a job site, and so my back's all fused together, and I wasn't going to give up fishing. That's my sanity. So I met Dave Gins one day. We had breakfast, and I says, Dave, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I can't bend over and pick my Vexlar up. And so we thought about it. He said, maybe go down to the thrift store and get an old luggage, retractable handle, or whatever. And that was one of the things I wanted. I wanted to make sure that I could take the handle, put my Vexlar back into my trap on the back of my wheeler. So I'm at home. I was one of those fortunate ones that was stuck on Mille Lacs when that big snowstorm hit, and I wrecked the shovel digging out. And so it's sitting on the workbench at home, and I'm cleaning the garage, and I look at it, and I go, I wonder if I can repurpose this thing. So I cut the scoop off it, and I riveted it onto the blue box and got a retractable handle. The handle pops off, but now you just pick up and walk wherever you want. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it's pretty. I'll try to get a picture up. I know you have some pictures. We'll get a picture up on one of these topics. People can take a look at that. Pretty cool deal. I mean, the first time I saw it, you and I were fishing, and you looked at me and you just kind of smiled. You're like, I could tell what you were thinking. You're like, wait for it. Yeah. Wait for it. Right. And then, what the heck is that, Mike? And you're like, knew it. And then you told me, and I thought that was pretty ingenious. So one of the cool things about it, talking tournament fishing, Mike, I remember, and you made a comment before we went live about a memory that popped up. Ultimate Panfish League, you and your brother fish Big Marine Lake, a tough lake. Especially in the tournament crowd. It's a tough lake to do well at. I mean, it's a combat fishing lake. And you guys, I remember it was tournament morning, and I'm checking you guys in. All the teams have to come check in and do their thing. And I said, how you guys doing? How are you guys going to do? And you had your best poker face on ever. Like, yeah, we'll see. Your brother, Pat, came in like a bull in the china shop, looks at me and he goes, we're going to win this. I remember he looks at me dead in the eyes and goes, and there was no one around. So it wasn't like he tipped his hat, right? It was just you, me, and your brother. And I think you kind of looked at him like, Patrick, man, don't play our cards. And he just looks at me and goes, we're going to win this. And I'm like, I hope you do. You knock yourself out. And I hear that 5 times every tournament from a team. I'm going to win. Tournament goes on. I remember vividly, I had Jason Leckler with me from Walzer GMC. He was in my truck, and we drove out to check on teams. And I remember going past a certain spot, and I remember looking to my right, and J-Lo didn't know any team by their machines and their suits, right? He knew who you were, of course, but he didn't know what you guys were. So I said, hey, there's the Rodger brothers over there kind of by themselves. And he's like, that's cool, whatever. I'm kind of pointing people out, and we kept going, and we started checking on people. I remember about an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, we come back through. You and Pat hadn't moved at all. And I looked at J-Lo and I said, them boys are on them. And he's like, how do you know that? We didn't get within 100 yards. I said, I know Mike and Pat, they do not sit still. And they haven't moved out of the same 2 holes the last 2 hours. They got a bag. And I remember J-Lo kind of said, well, we'll see, whatever. And go ahead, Mike, how'd it go from there?
So the best part about that whole story is Pat didn't even know where the spot was. I'd just been sitting, they had to run into shore for something. And I was just sitting there and looking at my graph and going,
This is pre-fishing.
The
day before, yeah.
I'm going, nobody's ever touched the spot ever. And I'm going, well, I wonder if those people are pushing this fish over here. So I drilled a hole, and I just set my Vexlar in there, and I'm just watching it. All of a sudden, this big line comes through. What is that? So I dropped down, and bam, holy crap. That's like a 14.5-inch crappie. I laid it on the ice, took a picture of it, threw it in a hole, and sitting there, and I'm going, this is pretty cool. Another line shows up, boom. My God, that's a 9.5-inch gill. Took a picture of that, and I sent them to Pat, and he comes out, right? I kicked the hole shut. He comes out, and he says, come on, we got to go. We got pre-fish. I said, now we're done. We're going home. I'm going home. He says, no, dude, we got to go pre-fish. I said, did you check your phone? He says, no, why? I said, well, look at your phone. He pulls out, and he says, did you get them right here? I said, yep. But one of the things we did on that one is we never wore micro spikes on that. I always said it scared the fish away, and we just sat there. And the best part of that story is Pat says to me close to the end of the day, he says, you think we got it? And I said, no, I think we need one more kicker. And so I drilled like 4 more holes. It was probably half the size of this room. I drilled 4 more holes in, and I get like a 10-inch crappie. I says, hey, come over here and fish this hole. And he comes over, and he, not my hole, dummy, that one over there. So he drops down in, and he pulls up like a 13.5-inch crappie. And I says, yeah, now we got it.
I'm pulling up the actual stats here as we talk because I have them on the website.
Yeah, that was an epic day for
What
sure.
year was that? Was it like
9 years ago.
It's like 2014, 2015?
The funny part is that popped up on my memory on Facebook today.
Let me take a look. We have all the results on the UPL website for quite a few years back. I think to 2008 or something like that. I want to find that exact one because I'm only want to find this, and I'll tell you why I want to find it, Mike. Because I don't think you needed that extra kicker.
Yeah, probably not. I think we won by like 7 pounds.
That's where I'm getting at. I think you kind of manhandled everybody, and you had 11.5 pound bag.
Yeah.
And I remember, let's see. Okay. We were thinking 2014, 15 season. I can get this to
9 years ago. Yeah, it would be about 20.
Big Murray, here we go. Drum roll, please. Yes, it is. So, Pat, Mike, Rodger, I'm going to tell you right now, you absolutely did not need a kick. You could have thrown your 2 biggest fish out and you would have won that.
You know, on that day, I was weighing the fish, and basically going through my bucket. And I says, Pat, the bluegill's got to be 3/4 of a pound or bigger to Cape.
Yeah.
That's how our day was. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. You had 11.785 pounds.
Yeah.
Second place, Mr. Luma and Mike Thompson, 7.58.
Yeah.
You had over a 4 pound win.
Yeah.
That's whooping.
Almost 5 pounds. Yeah, that's a great day.
And I remember when Pat, your brother, came in, and I don't know if Pat still smokes cigarettes. Don't care, but he did that. He did then. And I remember everyone comes in, and at the weigh-in, it's kind of fun. It's kind of there's spectators that come out. We do the digital scale as prizes. It's kind of a cool thing to watch if you've never seen a weigh-in in an ice fishing tournament. And we're all sitting there. I remember looking at you and your brother, and you're sitting on the bucket, not even trying to come to the stage. And I'm like, okay. And you could have knocked the smile off Pat's face from 2 miles away. He's just sitting there burning heaters, just smiling. He looks at me, and he just gave me that little grin. That's all I needed to know. And I go, they got this.
I think he wore the soles off the bottom of his shoes, pacing back and forth.
I looked at you guys, and I'm like, they got this. And you guys hounded the crowd. I have a lot of memories in the UPL, 22 years plus of doing this, and that's absolutely one of my top 5. Just how that whole thing unfolded, how a tough lake, it's always a battle. There's a handful of lakes we fish where it's going to be a battle. That's always one of them. And, man, there was no close second. So that was fun. That was cool.
That was a great day. It definitely was.
Yeah. So tournament fishing, I mean, you've learned a lot there. You guys cut your teeth doing tournaments. You cut your teeth working sports shows. I mean, I can't even gather how many sports shows you and your brother have worked. I wouldn't even want to guess. A lot of them. And here's the thing I want to talk about sports shows. And we've dabbled in this topic a little bit, but one thing Mike does very well that is not easy, and you'll know what I mean when I say this. You have to go work in the trenches.
I actually enjoy that.
You want to tell our audience what I mean?
Well,
yeah.
The retail. I go work in the retail booths. And the reason I say I actually enjoy it is because after you do it for a while, the same, I kind of call them groupies, and I shouldn't say that, but the same folks keep coming through and what's new? What should I get this year?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about, once they see you in those retails all that time, they know that, okay, I can ask this guy and he's going to tell me whatever. I'll be honest, man. I've sold Eskimo and Otter and every brand out there. It's, that's what you want. This is what I know,
Yeah.
And I've always tried to educate myself on doing like in stores, is go and educate myself on others' products just so I know. So if somebody asks me, I can help sell that product too. And it's like I always said, this is, I may be on Clam staff, but it's we represent the sport of ice, the fishing in period. That's
Absolutely. Dude, you're spot on. And what Mike what means by that, if you're not familiar with what he's implying. So when we go to a sports show, we have Clam representatives. Mike is on our Clam Pro staff, on Ice Team Pro, as other brands, and he'll work, let's say, a Marine General, because that's where you spent a lot of your time. He'll go in there on our behalf and he'll represent that brand, trying to get customers engaged in clam fish houses and ice armor suits and all that good stuff. But what he's saying is he truly becomes an ambassador for ice fishing and an ambassador for that retailer. So, and that's one thing we always tell our guys and gals, that if somebody walks up to you and they want to learn about something, I feel confident that you should be educated enough to have some level of an answer. Now, I'm not expecting our anglers to know everything. That's unfair and that's unrealistic. But when it comes to the competitors of Clam, right, and competitors I use in all the best way, you should know what's going on. You'll never hear me complain if a guy or gal comes in and wants to buy a competitor fish house and you educate them on this and get them excited about fishing and they hug and high five you on the way out the door. To me, that's just what this industry is forged and built on. So that's what he's kind of implying there. And I say trenches because if you've ever been at an ice fishing show, especially like the St. Paul Ice Show, the battle is won at the retail level. It's not won ultimately in the Clam booth, in the Otter booth, in the Eskimo booth, in the Vexlar booth, in the Markham booth, whatever it might be. The battle is won at Marine General, Thorne Brothers, Reed's, Joe's, Up North Sports, right? That's where it is. That's the trenches. And it's funny because Mike's one of the first ones always to go, hand raised, send me down the line, let's go do this. And it's been fun to watch. And you're right, man. Like, you worked those booths for 10, 15 years, and they see you, they know you, they trust you. It's important.
You got Jason Durham and Jason, help me out, man. Rylander. Those guys all go over to Reed's. They know you become friends with these people that work at these retailers. Yep. And the thing is they actually rely on you to help them. I don't know how many times I watched my brother restock Marine General's tackle and rods, and that's what that's all about. And then of course helping everybody. You're getting some jigs. Maybe you should try this jig box. This is the promotion. I remember when it would always open up and you'd get the herd coming through. I used to just sneak right into all the ice suits and just wait for the crowd to blast on by it, and then I'd pop back out. Otherwise, you'd get run over.
Yeah, it's entertaining. And Bressler. Yeah, you get to work with the Bresslers, and now Chris brings his kid. Yeah. Who you and Chris have trained Cadman in selling tactics and this and that. The Cox family. Yep. Donnie Cox will come on and bring all four of his boys at random times to work the booths. I'll tell you what, and I've said this before on this podcast, I think every single pro, every single industry staff member, every single industry employee should have spent some time in some capacity in a retail environment. Oh, definitely. I'm a firm believer. Whether it's having, I will never ever replace the 6 years I spent at Thorne Brothers for how invaluable that was for making me more in tune with the industry. And likewise for someone like you spending all this time in a retail booth at a show to understand truly what makes the industry tick. I think that's the bloodline of this industry is the retail establishments.
Oh, definitely. I sat back just like you, and we've watched how this industry has changed. We went from lead jigs to tungsten, zinc Li instead of lead. And all for the better, and I can remember when Johnny Crane said, who wants tungsten jigs? And it was like, me. Yep. Everybody else is like, well, what they didn't know is that a tournament day, we were pre-fishing, and it was just Sago, and Patrick was running a little late, tournament, and I'm at Frankie's. We were going to meet at Frankie's, and I look at all the jigs, and I'm going, why is there only one of them, and all the rest of them are still sitting there? And it was a Tika, not Tika, it was a Fiska Balance. Yep. And so I bought that one jig. And I went out there and I was just hammering them, and Pat was struggling. So I got done, and I says, Pat, I'm going down to Mike's. I want to see if he's got any more of those jigs. I went down to Mike's, and I bought every one of them. And it was game day the next day, I mean, and that was just, we couldn't fish as small and as heavy. I mean, me and you had that conversation. We wouldn't be using 3 millimeter jigs if it weren't tungsten. They just wouldn't get down there in time.
Yeah. Remember the day a few years ago? I get a memory that pops every year. I think it was you, me, and Jack fished a lake, same lake he hit yesterday. We won't name any names. You and I, we did it. It might have been over Christmas break. 3 years ago. It was a super tough bite.
Yeah.
And remember what we had to do? We had to downsize.
Yep.
And not only did we have to downsize, but you figured out that we had to downsize, and there was a very specific color that they wanted.
Yeah.
And so to Mike's point about the bait shop having that one jig, and you often think, not a chance. Like, there's other things that work, and probably. But anyone that follows tournament fishing in any capacity, whether it's walleye, bass, muskie, it don't matter, even in the summertime, you'll see that there's certain specific nuances that make all the difference in the world. And that day we went fishing, I remember you were getting frustrated. You're like, dude, I was just here 2 days ago. I caught 100 of these darn crappies. I do not know what's going on. And everything we were catching was small. And then all of a sudden I remember I could see it in his face. He was getting frustrated. And Jack and I were kind of set up. The snow was deep.
Yep.
Our machines were getting stuck, I remember. And I think we actually got our machine stuck and said, screw it. That's where they're going to sit for a while. Let's fish this area. Mike goes straight Rambo mode on everything. He's like, I'm going to figure this out. Punching holes. And then finally he's like, Maddie, I figured them out. We're fishing the wrong thing. This is what you need to put on. And it was a black drop kick. Remember that?
Yeah.
A black drop kick. And he's like, this is what they want with this plastic. And I'm like, dude, I'm fishing a glow red drop kick, same size. And you're like, take it off. It needs to be a black drop kick. And we pounded them.
Isn't that crazy how that works?
Yeah.
You talk about getting stuck and just fishing that one spot. Well, last year we had all that snow, and I was out on green. I met my old buddy out there. No, I was with another buddy, and we drove out there, and I was going to go across the lake, and it just snowed, and the travel was crappy. So we turned around, and we took a goat path, and I got stuck, and I drilled a hole, and I used the Arctic anchor, pulled myself out, and I said, you know what? I drilled this hole. I got to look. I dropped the live scope down. I said, man, there's a pot of fish 45 feet over there and another one 65 feet away. I said, well, I'm going to go over there and drill. Went over there, drilled on it, and there was a huge pot. And I think first gill we caught was 9.5 inches. And I go to drill in a few more holes. And the third hole I drilled, I hit sand and just grenaded the blades, right? So we fished for a while, and then we decided to come back in. We come back in, and I ran into Wayne.
Oh, yeah, Wayne Anderson.
Yeah. And he was out there. And I've known Wayne from back in the tournament days, and he works at Thornbrook. I said, Wayne, he was fishing on the point. I said, follow my trail out there. I said, where it stops. I says, I got 3 holes, and that's all I could drill. I grenaded my my auger. And so I says, there's another pod that's right not far from it. So the next day I called Thorn Brothers to see if they got blades from it, because I run a 7-inch auger. See if they had blades there, and they did. And Wayne answered the phone. So I said to him, hey, how did you do out there? He says, oh, Mikey, he says, that second pod that you couldn't fish because your auger, he says, loaded. He says, that was some of the best fishing I've had in years. Go figure, right?
Did he pay you your guide fee?
Nah, Wayne's a great guy. I fished out there, run into him many times out there. Just great.
Wayne
guy.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Wayne is awesome. Yeah, Thorn Brothers, great organization. Wayne works there. They're usually got a finger on the pulse. It is crazy though. You're right, and I think we've talked forward facing sonar so much. I feel like it gets talked in every podcast existing. I'm not looking to go down that road, but you're right. What that has done for me is it's opened my eyes to things I'm missing. It hasn't been the missing unicorn to catching all these fish and you're now a hero and it's a guaranteed success tool, right? But it's helped me open my eyes. It's given me the ability to be more efficient. It's helped me locate structure
Yeah.
Not just fish. Like in the summertime, I laugh. I don't even care about finding fish in the summertime with my forward-facing sonar. I'm looking for the weed line so I know how far I have to cast. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I use mine in the summer up on Mille Lacs, and then I built a little Gins box deal, and I take my graph off. I'll take the waypoints. When I go run the launch over there at Nitty's, I'll have those points, and I'll know where they're at, and because honestly, they got electronics, but they ain't no state of the art things.
Yeah.
So I'll go park on them, and that's really, really helped my success running the launch up there. And quick point is I had future anglers with me this year on the launch, and I had two kid trips this year that 30 kids, and two of the best trips I've ever had with 30 kids out on the water.
Yeah.
And they were all pretty good.
Yeah. One thing regarding Mille Lacs, which I think it earns some due respect, is Dickie.
Yeah.
God bless him, man. The guy, I didn't know Dickie that well. I had run into him a handful of times. I don't have a bad thing to say. I don't know if anyone does, but quick shout out to him up there. I know he's shining down on us, probably already fishing, but God bless him. We lost a good member of our fishing community just recently. Mille Lacs legend.
Yeah, definitely. If there was anybody that knew the ice, it was him.
Yeah.
I've known Dickie for over 30 years, and most of the time when I would sit down and have breakfast with Dickie or whatever, we talked about gardening.
Yeah.
He loved to garden. That was his deal in the summer. He'd have a little booth at the farmer's market every weekend, and I'd go see him, and we'd talk about how our gardens were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely a legend. Very sad moment for sure. And that just goes to show you he was out there checking the ice for safe ice to keep everybody safe. We talked about it early. Go out of the resorts. They're all struggling this year too.
Yeah.
Pay tribute to them. They know they got a pulse on everything. I'll be going up to Mille Lacs next week during the week, and yeah, I'd love to run out to the mud, but I won't go out there until I know it's safe. I just with my physical condition, I don't know if I could get myself out if I went in.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't want you going. And no, that's good advice. Like there's so many great resorts, and it's not just Mille Lacs. Mille Lacs has got a ton, right? I was talking to Paul Wadowski yesterday.
Yeah.
Paul W. I love Paul. I've known him for a long time.
Many years.
The guy is an absolute stud. Lake of the Woods, Red Lake, Winnie, Leech, Cass. I mean, there's a ton of lakes. There's so many I'm not even getting close to. Gull Lake. You make a good point. Like this has been a tough year on a lot of people. And if you think it's tough on us anglers that just can't go fishing, right?
Yeah.
Let's not be selfish for a moment, right? We just can't go fishing.
Right.
And we're frustrated. Think about a resort that relies on us going fishing so that they can literally, metaphorically keep their lights on. So I think what Mike was saying, like if you get a chance and you're going to Mille Lacs and you're going to said body of water, and if there is a resort that you can throw $5 or $10 at, even to use the road pass, maybe stop and get a scoop of minnows, a candy bar, as lame as it sounds, a fist bump.
Yeah.
Hey man, hope you're doing well. Maybe a quick tag on social media. Went out of this access. They did a great job. Knowledgeable staff. That little bit goes a long way in our ice fishing community. To be honest, Mike, as you know, it's not that big.
No,
it's not a huge community, right? There are millions of ice anglers, but the actual industry, companies and stuff, it's not a big. They fit inside the St. Paul Ice Show venue.
Right.
So pay it forward if you can. Find a way to support some of this. Maybe today you don't go out of a public access. Maybe you say, you know what, there's a pay access down the road through that bait shop or that restaurant or that resort. I'm going to throw $10 in that thing and give them a little love. You never know. Could go a long way.
Right. Just paying that $10, if you get in trouble out on a lake, they're the first one. So like if you go out of Lake of the Woods, I always grab a business card from the resort that I'm at. Why? Everybody's got cell phones now. You get in trouble out there, you call them, and they're more than willing to come out there and help you. They'll save the skin sometimes. One of the things that I also want to say is that share the information you know. You don't have to share the lake, but if someone calls you up and says, "Hey, what's it look like here?" Don't say you're on 12 inches if you're not on 12 inches. I mean, this is a year we don't play that game. You know, you don't have to tell them that you're on Lake X. Just say, this is what I'm finding. I'm finding 8 to 9 inches. Most of the North Metro right now is running at 8 to 9 inches. But I do know of a couple lakes that had open water on them last Monday.
And they're sitting on 3-4 inches right now.
Right. And so that's why I say that extreme caution and you telling somebody, maybe stay away from the south end of this lake or whatever, might save somebody's life.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, think about Mille Lacs,
Yeah.
or even take a smaller lake but big, Waconia,
Yeah.
Minnetonka,
Yeah.
Medicine. I'm thinking of some bigger lakes in the metro, White Bear Lake, Forest Lake. Now you'll see somebody maybe on social media say, went to Forest Lake, 7 inches of ice. Well, you and I both know Forest Lake is big. There's 3 sections.
Right.
Where did they find 7 inches of ice?
Right.
What access? Because you may have gone to Lake 1 and found 7 inches of ice, and Lake 3 might have 2. So I guess my point is, and I know what Mike was getting at, is do your due diligence. Like when you get on a body of water, especially right now, just because Mike tells me, hey, dude, I was on Chisago, I had 6 inches of ice, you're good to go, walk out. I may be going out of a different part of the lake. I'm still going to spot it out. It only takes seconds.
Yeah.
We're not talking like this is difficult. So just sometimes, do your own checking and that sort of stuff. And at worst case scenario, call the local bait shops.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll tell you, you mentioned Mike's Bait on 8, right?
Yeah.
You can call them up
Yeah.
in the Chisago, or you can call Frankie DeSenka himself. Will pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on? What are you finding on Chisago? And you can even say like, okay, what access? He'll say, if you're going out of the channel, you're going to find 8 inches. If you're going to go out of the winter access that I plow, hey man, there might only be 5. So maybe be careful if you're going to bring a bigger machine out or something to that effect. So lean on some of those resources. Don't be afraid to ask. You want to know what's funny? That's what they're there for.
Exactly.
That is why they exist. That's what they're. Everyone thinks, oh, I don't want to burden them and ask. That is why they're there.
Right. Being this year we've walked a lot. I've used that clam harness more than I ever have this year. I mean, you got to pull it out, and it for some reason it just changes everything, and it's like there's nothing back there. And trust me, I haul a lot of crap.
I've noticed you've looked more fit.
Yeah, I wish I felt that way.
So the clam harness is needed. It's like a backpack. You throw it over your shoulders. It clips onto your fish trap sled. And it makes a world of difference when your arms are free.
Yeah.
And I was talking with Ray Ruiz from Baz Tech. We had him on one of the most recent episodes. We were chatting just the other day here, talking about shuttling our gear out on some lakes. They're on foot doing the thing, taking the kids out as well. And I talked about the harness, and he's like, "Ooh, I'm going to get one of those," because in the past it's grab the rope, throw it over your shoulder, whatever. But when your arms are free, you get so much more momentum and inertia. And then when you go, and I told him this, I said, run over to Joe's. They're a ski shop. They have cross-country ski poles. They probably have maybe used ones or a Play It Again Sports. And now when you have a set of ski poles that you're digging into the snow, it'll make light years difference when you're shuttling and pulling stuff out with a sled pulling harness. It really makes a difference. I mean, you might look goofy. Get over it. We're out ice fishing. We're bundled up. We don't care. But it makes a big difference.
Back when I was a kid, we didn't wear hoodies. Yeah. Because you were the nerd wearing a hoodie. Now what do you got? Everybody wearing a hoodie.
Now if you got a crew hood or crew neck,
yeah,
crew neck, and everyone's like, "Geez, look at that old guy."
Right, right. I mean, I always says there's no beauty in staying warm.
Yeah,
although that's changed a lot. The clothing industry is for winter fishing is. I get all the time. Well, you look cold out there because I fish alone a lot by myself. I'm fortunate enough to be retired, and I can sneak out in these little lakes during the week when nobody's around, and I absolutely love it when there's just absolutely just me and the eagles, and everyone just say, "God, you look cold." No, I'm not cold. You got to dress for it,
Yeah. It's like I always joke like your ice armor or your blackfish, or the combination of the two, like a lot of us do. It's your fish house on your body.
Well, right. That's exactly right. In your body's your heater.
Yep.
It's been an interesting year. I know a week ago I called you and we were talking. I told you I was on 12-inch ice, and you said, "Where are you on 12 inches ice?" As I was out in North Dakota.
Yeah.
But that same lake had some scary ice too.
Yeah, it does fluctuate. I mean, it's interesting. So if people are going out this weekend, Mike, and I don't know when this one will air. We're recording this on a Thursday. What is it? The 18th today? Yeah, I think it's the 18th. So this is Thursday the 18th. So any information we say now relative to today, it's the 18th. So things could change for sure.
Yeah.
But if you're going out this weekend, which is January 20th, 21st, like Mike said, there's a lot of good fishable ice. There's a lot of opportunity to get out. We had a wonderfully, and it's so weird. My friends think I'm such a moron that I think this weather is amazing. I embrace it. I love it. It's below zero. It's great because we're ice anglers and we're crazy.
Yeah.
But we made some great ice the last several days. We're going to make some more ice today, tomorrow, Saturday. It's going to be below zero when we wake up again. Next week, it's going to certainly warm up. We're not going to lose any of our ice. People are panicking because it's going to be 37, 38 degrees a day or two next week. That's barely above freezing. And the highs this time of year, in my opinion, March is a different story, but this time of year, pretty irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's the lows you look at. That's the bulk average of the day is going to be a much cooler temp. That sun reaches its peak for about an hour.
Yeah. Well, they say 38 degrees. That's 38 degrees for an hour in the afternoon, and that's it, and it goes back down. But if you look, it's supposed to have cloud cover those few days in there, and of course that keeps the heat in, but it also keeps the sun out, which the sun's very powerful.
Yeah.
I want to retract a little bit. Let's not talk about where there is good ice. So if you guys find terrible ice on a certain lake, put that out there.
Yeah, good point.
That then you're not giving them what you got. But if you see, hey, I was on Lake Francis and there was open ice to the north of the axis, something like that. It'd be so valuable for everybody this year to know that open ice info. You don't have to tell them I got 8 inches over here. They can check for themselves, and they should. But if they know there's open ice.
Yeah, there's bad spots.
Right.
Tom Dobbins does that well.
Yeah.
Dobbins, I know, I've seen many times over the years, will post lake maps and circle red areas.
Yeah.
Scott Merwin.
Yeah.
Jeremy Colson on Lake Osakis.
Yeah.
They do a phenomenal job. The Lake Osakis Guide Service, phenomenal job of letting people know there's open water off point X or there's a pressure that opened up. And you're right, Mikey. I think that does a wonderful job. A lot of the resorts on Mille Lacs,
every one of them,
will tell you like, hey, a crack opened up. I have a bridge. Here's where it is. Like just simple things to make the ice fishing experience more enjoyable. And I joked, I was laughing the other day. Ice fishing is a very safe sport. I know we've had some people go down this winter. Very unfortunate. Things happen. But, there was a stat out there not too long ago that there's more casualties in ping pong than ice fishing.
Wow.
And I don't say that to make light of it or joke about anything. I just say it because if it's done appropriately, it's done right, use some common sense. Ice fishing's a very safe sport. So,
well, there's probably more injuries in pickleball right now.
Oh, pickleball, I can't even imagine. But, to Mike's point, he's just saying as a community, and the community is referencing all of us, not just the community in these walls or the community in a certain town. It's the ice fishing community. Help each other out. If you happen to go on a lake, Minnetonka, Forest Lake, Mille Lacs, Lake of the Woods, and you find a weak spot, man, with social media, the power of social media nowadays, you could make a quick video, a quick post and say, hey, I found a thin ice. And, if that helps one person,
just one,
that is all you need. So that's good advice, Mike. So if you see stuff where there's hazardous areas, let everybody know. This weekend, you're going fishing, I'm assuming.
I am going. I'm going to meet Patrick on Sunday, him and Rita.
Okay.
And Saturday, I'm going to run to one of my little local lakes north. A buddy of mine lives on it, actually. And
nice.
He reported back that he had anywhere from 8 to 10 inches everywhere he drilled today. So I'll be breaking the machine out.
Yeah, you're going to be chasing crappies, bluegills?
Crappies and gills.
Nice.
I'll chase the walleyes. I'm heading up to Mille Lacs midweek. Like it says, I like to fish during the week.
Yeah,
it's
bummer.
It is so much. You get a chance every now and then to fish during the week. You know what I'm saying? Very rarely do I fish at night anymore.
Yeah,
you get home for dinner. It's she's always wanted me home for dinner, and of course I haven't missed many of them, as you can see.
Yeah, I mean I've done quite a bit of night fishing recently, honestly because the conditions have called for it, and I say that because when it's cold like that, you and I both know, Mike, our mentality is, and I've gotten some funny jabs my direction this last week because I've had so many pictures of me in a fish trap.
Yeah.
People are like, are you in a fish trap? Like, you don't fish in a fish house? Like, because my mentality is to run and gun and move even on cold days. But I'll tell you what, when it's 10 below and it's blowing 15 miles an hour, I don't care how tough you think you are. It's a safety thing. So while I say that, I've fished a lot in the evening. This is why. I am looking for opportunities, the best window bite where I don't have to move. And let's be honest, that's your sundown crappie bite.
Yeah.
So you hunker down on a productive spot where the fish are cycling through. It's amazing how comfortable you are in a fish trap. It's amazing how much I probably should be doing it. Drew and I joke about it. Like, I fished in a trap all the time 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And you hunker down, you get your Mr. Heater running, you get your Vexlar running. There's an ambiance that you can't put a price tag on. The light bar is shining.
Yeah.
You're comfortable. There's a snack bag, like Thane says, to your right. And you got fish on the graph. It's as corny as it sounds. It is a very magical experience, the evening crappie bite. And on most lakes, unbeknownst to popular belief, these crappies bite throughout the entire night.
Oh, right. That plankton,
very oftentimes
that plankton gets going, and then you've seen it like I have. But when you talk about fishing in a trap, I like you in the last few years, I've done more of it. Simple fact, because of the wind. And what I'm talking about is that I don't get on my knees hardly at all anymore when I fish. It's just being my physical condition that I have to stand up. Mm-hmm. Well, when you see that bow in your line from the wind, by the time that bite gets to you, it's gone.
Yeah.
Because your line's not straight. You have to have that balance, and that's where breaking out the shack, flipping it over. One of my favorite one-mans, that X100, it's just so roomy in there. I know you were in the Legend the other day. That was my last one. But I went to that X100 because I pull it in my machine. I'm not pulling it out by hand. But they're just so roomy. But you take that wind out of that factor, the wind's everything. It can wreck a day fast. But you straighten that line back out, it's huge.
Yeah,
that's why I went to that Frost yellow.
Yeah,
is so you can see that bow in there. Not only that, you can see that line move on the tip of your rod, not up and down, but horizontally. And that's when it moves horizontally, you better be setting a hook because it's there.
And hook sets are free.
Yeah, very free.
It's funny because I was glad you said X100 because I was going to ask you what fish house you were using. But, it's nice. It's one-person traps. I'm built another love for them. I enjoy them. They're fun. They are easy to set up. They're lightweight.
Yeah.
You can tow them. You can drag them by hand, especially on years like right now. I'm seeing a lot of people ask about one-person fish traps. I like my two-person. I like to fish with somebody. It's always fun. You get extra holes. You put a set line, a dead line down. That stuff's always super, super fun. What are you using this weekend? What are you tying on? What are some things that you plan to, if you don't mind spilling the beans on some things that in the vault of Mike Rodger?
So I always get it. Everybody says to me, "Do you really need that many rods?"
Yes.
Yes, you're right. Well, what they don't understand is I also guide walleyes, panfish, and you have to have spoons. You have to have tikka minnows. So I've been able to play around with the Tikka Flash this year. So that's definitely tied on. The Pin Pro, Pinhead Pro. I won't fish without. Actually, those are the two I've used this year. And then when I really get into a good bite, I'll pull that drop kick down the red one with some Euro larvae. But I'm telling you right now, you don't even need bait with that Pinhead Pro and that Tikka Flash. Once you figure it out, I remember when the Pinhead Pro first came out, I couldn't get the cadence, and then I would think I was with you on Francis, and you were running it, and I was watching you. So there's a hint, people. You see somebody that's really good, watch what they do, because you'll pick up a lot.
Yep.
And I was watching you, so I went and I started repeating your cadence, and changed a few things, and man, what a fantastic bait lure. That's probably to me one of the best ever is that Pinhead Pro.
Yeah.
And that Tikka Flash, I haven't had a lot to play with it, but that's right in the ballpark.
Yeah, the Pinhead Pro has been dynamite. It's almost one of those things where it's hard to find somebody that doesn't have one. And I don't say that to be egotistical for the brand I work for. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
And I have so many friends that call it what it is. They don't represent clam. They may have a different tackle sponsor. They still have a Pinhead Pro in their tackle box. And it just flat out catches fish. And doing the tournament thing, it's always a joke. We do a recap at the end of every tournament. I got the top 3 teams in front of me, 6 guys or gals. And I spent some time talking with them. What worked, what didn't work, what are you using? It's almost to the point now where it's laughable. You go ask them, okay, what'd you use to catch your fish? How'd it go? Pinhead.
Yeah.
All right, what'd you use? Pinhead.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys. What about this team? Second place. What'd you use? Pinhead. What'd you use? Tungsten. Ooh, you used something other than the pinhead. It's almost like, okay, tell me more. Like,
yeah, right.
Everyone else just says pinhead, pinhead, pinhead.
Right.
And you're right, dude. It's a great bait. No bait needed. That's a big push on that. I don't think I've tipped that thing, but 3 times on a very finicky bluegill bite. And I always question myself when I'm at that point. I probably should just downsize to tungsten, but I end up just tipping a little Megan on that little hook of the pinhead, and then they eat it.
Yeah.
But they eat it. But make sure you have your toothpick on your hip to get that thing out, because crappies will come through and
they
choke it. Especially that 30-second ounce that came out last year, that small one.
Yeah.
They just come through and they crush that thing. Super fun bait to fish.
Right. So like when I was out in North Dakota, I was running the split pin, and then I tied on a ribbon spoon. You know, it's just so fun fishing out there. I got to go back here sooner than later. Yeah, and
you shot a show with Jason, didn't you?
Yeah. We shot a little show out there on some of the reservoirs that are out there, and just sitting with him, I learned a lot. Jason's a very educational guy, let alone he's a blast to fish with. But I learned a lot on how his episode will be coming out. I think he put a little something out on YouTube, but I'm not sure, but on how to find these things through the North Dakota Fish and Game website. And that was pretty surprising, because I do a lot of homework here through the Lake Finder website.
Yes, great website.
We were up fishing up in Big Sandy, and we were on our phones, and we weren't surfing the internet. We were surfing the lakes up in that area, on which ones, the stocking reports. And then talked with Waldron from the Crappie Chronicles and picked his brain a little bit on some of the things they do. And that's one of the ones they use a lot but they actually will call them up and get the updated versions.
Yeah.
So, and that's something I didn't know. But if you've never talked to a fisheries guy, you're really losing out.
Yeah, it's fun.
You might have to hang up on them.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what they're there for, too. And again, everyone's intimidated to ask the questions.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That is their job, to collect the information and provide the information.
I can imagine their phones tomorrow.
Yeah.
But right, they're out there, they're looking, they know, they got a pulse on it better than anybody.
Yeah.
They'll know which lakes froze over last year.
Yeah.
Sadly, that one of the lakes that me and you fished had some issues with it too, and
summer kill as well.
Yeah. And last year we had a lot of snow, and some of the smaller lakes had low oxygens. But one of the best lakes I fished in a few years, there was probably 20,000 cars that drove by it every day, and nobody ever fished it.
Yep.
And that's here in Minnesota.
Yep.
And I was frustrated on it too. And I said, I'm gonna give it 15 more minutes, and I'm going home. And I know, let's say, hey, what's that red line?
Yeah.
You gotta love those red lines.
Oh yeah. You want to catch Gens? I always ask him, "What's your favorite fish to catch?" And Dave Gens always goes, "Red lines."
Yeah.
You don't care. But it's funny, quick Mitchell story. You talked about he's fun to fish with. I fished with Jason Mitchell. This is pre-clam. I wasn't working for clam, but I was on the pro staff. And I came out. We went to Leech Lake. We were chasing down perch up there. It was a media event. It was me, Jason Mitchell, Corey Bechtold. Corey was with me. Him and I drove up together. We had a couple media guys, and we went and fished Leech. And they said, okay, you guys head that way and chase perch. And I remember Mitchell looks at me. I look at Mitchell. I look at Corey. Corey looks at me. We all do none of us fish Leech Lake. Like, Corey and I are city guys. Mitchell's from Devil's Lake. He's like, I don't fish Leech Lake at the time. He's like, it's not my thing. How hard can it be? Well, Leech is kind of a bugger. We go to this point. We start fishing, and we get out there. Mitchell goes to start his auger, gas augers at the time, pulls the recoil right out. First pull, boom, auger down. Whatever. I got him one. Corey's got one. This is late ice, 30 inches ice, Leech Lake, like we used to get.
Yep.
And Corey's like, no problem, I'll help you. Well, we can't get Corey started, just blue smoke. Again, that's welcome to the generation of gas-powered augers.
Yep.
They all look at me, and I said, all right, come on, big boy, come on, solo. Don't let me down. Mine starts. So I guess I'm cutting holes. So I'm like, I'll cut holes. Mitchell just go in behind me. I start ripping holes over this expansive flat. Corey Bechtold finds the weeds. I get on the weeds. I start cutting more holes. I kid you not, Mikey. I look behind. Mitchell's following every hole I cut. He's just fishing outside. He's got I think at the time he had a rattling buckshot Northland spoon on before CPT even existed.
Yeah.
No bait. And I'm watching this dude put a perch on the ice at every hole he steps up to. Like an absolute warrior. Every hole, boom, perch on the ice. Next hole, boom, perch on the ice. And Corey and I can't catch a darn thing. We couldn't catch a cold that day. And I watched Mitchell just combat fish these fish. And he's like, this is just like Devil's Lake. This is not that hard. We came back at lunch, and I remember the whole group looks at us and says, well, we're having hot dogs. None of us caught enough fish for a fry. Mitchell looks over at me, and he goes, kind of nods. I go to the back of my truck. I grab the 5-gallon bucket full of perch. I come over and dump it on a piece of cardboard, and I said, we're having a fish fry today. Pretty crazy. He's one heck of a stick.
Oh, definitely. I've fished with him a lot, and I've tried repeating his cadence, and he's got, we all got our own style, and I tried repeating, and I just couldn't do it. Even out that last time out, he says, yeah, I just keep pounding, and I try and I just couldn't get his cadence. I had to go back to my own cadence, which works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for you. But yeah, one of the best sticks in the industry right there. What
I learned with Jason is it's helped me improve my game, because I'm a big believer now and have been for years. And you can't stop jigging.
Yeah.
I wrote an article years ago, 2005, about don't stop jigging. Yeah. When a fish shows up on your Vexlar, don't stop jigging. Yeah. Everyone wants to stop and hold their breath and let them bite. Yep. And if you watch Jason Mitchell fish, he pounds that dang spoon.
Pounds it
the entire
hard.
time, especially when a perch is right next to it in its face. He keeps pounding that spoon until they hit it.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about that.
Yeah. He's just got it, he's got a different pound than everybody else. And like he says, I just pound it. I'm trying to pound like you. I just didn't have his cadence. I fished with Dave Gids numerous times, and he's got a different cadence than I do too. It's a funny story about with him. As I was out fishing with him one day, and I kept hearing something every time I'd break off on a northern. And finally I said, what are you talking about? He said, oh, yeah, every time you break that, I get 5 cents royalty off that jig. He says, I'm up to 35 cents.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, Gens is a stick. And it's funny that everyone does have their own way of fishing.
Yeah.
And cadence, just for anyone listening, what Mike means by that is how we jig, our jigging movements. And so your cadence, if you do a definition, it's rhythmic, it's how you jig, it's subtle movements, it's, shaking. You might not be watching, but how you jig your rod up and down, speed, swimming the lure, like your cadence, what the movements you implore onto your jig is your cadence.
Right. I call it balance. It could be the difference in the rod, the difference in the line, the difference in the weight of the jig. I mean, all that. I mean, I've been with you where you just pounded on them, and it was probably the cadence will change with the different rods. If I'm using a meat stick, and you might be using a Takana or something, but that rod will give it different actions.
Yeah.
And like I say, you're out with somebody, pay attention. And that's kind of why, like, everyone says, you need that many rods? Yeah, because I'm not letting Matt Johnson outfish me again.
Is it ever a matter of need?
No.
Okay. And Mike, you're spot on. Like the rod, I think we often look at, and when I worked retail, it's one thing Pat Smith taught me, one thing that stick with me forever on. Customer walks in, and usually the question they ask is, I need a crappie rod. I need a walleye rod, right? And I always struggled with that, because we're taught what that is.
Yeah.
Walleye rod, medium action, crappie rod, light or ultralight. Right? We're just quickly assuming. But what Pat taught me was, you work backwards. What are you going to use? Okay, you want a crappie fish. What are you going to use? Are you going to use tungsten? Are you fishing a spoon? Are you fishing a swimming bait? What are you doing? Okay, walleye. What are you doing? Are you going to Winnipeg? Are you going to Mille Lacs? Are you going to Lake of the Woods? Is it a dead stick? What are you doing? So he gets down and dirty with this customer, and finally they're like, you know what? No, I'm probably going to a pinhead. I don't know, pinhead. I'm going to fish a minnow for walleyes. Okay, well now that's going to change the rod. Not all walleye rods are created equal. Not all panfish rods are created equal. You nailed it with the cadence and the and the rhythm in the rod. If I fish a meat stick or a noodle rod with the Pinhead Pro versus a light action graphite rod with the Pinhead Pro, the exact same movement of my hand for each rod will 100% have a different movement below the ice because of the flex in the maneuverability of the tip of that rod.
Exactly. You know, I started the year off. I had Tony. You know, we spool up rods and reels at the shows, and I had Tony spool up a couple rods for me, and I told him, I said, I want Foss Gold 4. And he says, you want 4 pound? I says, yeah. The first time out, I used that 4 pound, and I went back home, and I peeled off 20 yards of it, used a double uni, tied on some 3 pound, because what that 1 pound difference changed the cadence of my bait.
Yep.
And I knew that. And how did I know that? Because I could see the reaction of the fish from my electronics. You know, like I always said, and you and everybody else, you pay attention to your electronics, it tells a story.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so it's you have to get that balanced rod and lure and all that together. 4 pound was just too much for the smaller jigs I was running.
Yeah.
I was trying to save that 35 cents.
My best friend ice fishing that doesn't breathe is my Vexlar.
Yeah.
And some days I think it breathes.
Yeah.
It has a mind of its own, but it's your fish mood indicator. And you're right with watching that and how a fish reacts. That'll tell you what a fish does, what it doesn't do, how you should react, all this stuff. It's very, very most real-time thing you could ever put in the water, other than maybe an underwater camera.
Yeah.
But that's cumbersome, right? It's not as efficient. Like they're great tools. They're wonderful. Everyone's got them. They will help you immensely. But your flasher is unprecedented compared to everything else. But you mentioned something about the line going from 4 to 3. You're 100% right. Changes how that lure fishes, how it hangs, how much stretches in the line, how much tension's in the line. That making a little difference. Most anglers listening, I'm guessing, would probably go, no, not a chance. 4 pounds just fine. Like this guy's
you're
cuckoo.
You're exactly right.
And not a chance. Like if you and I go pan fishing this weekend, Mike, you probably will not find 4 pound test on my rods that I plan to fish. Period. Now I'm not fishing 2 and 1 either. I got some 2 pound test stuff when I got to really get down and dirty. I'm not the guy to talk to about 1 pound test line. Don't use it. Never do. Don't believe I have to. Now these Okoboji guys, this kind of stuff, they're probably going to tell you differently, and they're probably right. It's not my wheelhouse. But for what I do, Twin Cities, Brainerd area, Bemidji, Alexandria, the epicenter here, I'm fishing 3 pound 75% of the time, 2 pound 25% of the time, and I can pan fish. Now walleye, I will use 4 pound, and everybody looks at you on the other end of the spectrum and goes, dude, you're crazy. You're going for walleye. The 3 biggest walleyes I've caught in my life through the ice, all 3 on 4 pound test line. And here's the craziest fact. I was targeting all 3 of those walleyes. They weren't by accident. Because I want to use a 16th ounce spoon to entice these fish to bite, and I need the 4 pound test line.
You wouldn't get the dance out of that jig, you know, with the 6 pound line. And don't kid yourself. I have braided line tied up. Because there's a certain point, and you have to figure it out. It's like it says, the balance. You get into these deeper waters, Devil's Lake, fishing perch. You might be fishing 50 feet of water. You can't run mono because by the time that bite gets up to you and you feel it or see it, it's gone.
And set the hook.
And set the hook. I mean, because it's gone. You need to have that non-stretch of that braided line. I may tip it with fluorocarbon, but you have to have that feel come through.
What about Mille Lacs? So when you're in 30, like that 31 to 33 foot range, that's always been kind of that transition, right? That's the magic zone. Are you using braid?
I will
in that zone.
I will with if I'm running a Tikka minnow. There again, I let those fish tell me what they want. I pay attention to electronics. All right, these things are kind of like I can get them in here
Mm-hmm.
and draw them in, but they didn't commit and something's wrong.
Yeah.
So then I'll go and maybe it's just that they want that little bit of more flutter on a spoon or the Tikka with mono because it all reacts different.
Yeah.
There again, do you need that many rods? Well, I do.
Yeah. So if I'm going to Mille Lacs this weekend, I know we got a lot of people that listen to this that love fishing Mille Lacs. They might go try it for the first time, and they're going to go walleye fishing. Let's say they can't bring an arsenal of rods. You've been guiding Mille Lacs, dude, for a long time. Going to Mille Lacs, going walleye fishing. Is there that supreme setup that somebody can go into the Thorne Brothers or Shields and be dialed? What are they looking at here?
So I try to run carbon fiber rods.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest. So you can carbon fiber transfers that energy, and what I mean by that is when that fish bites that lure, it's got to travel up that line through the rod and in your hand. Well, that fluorocarbon, it's another carbon braid that go back to as kids, tie the soup can deal and talk to each other through the braid where there's no stretch in there. You have to have that energy transfer come through. And so that's why I like the carbon fiber rods. A fiberglass rod, yeah, it'll work, definitely, but you're not really getting that energy transfer that you need. If you think of it as an electrician, when they work on the high power lines, they're using a fiberglass pole so that electricity doesn't come through. So they're not feeling that energy transfer come through. That's kind of important when you're jigging. So if I were to run up there, I will have a rattling spoon on. The painted colored ones this year I really like. I haven't had a chance to use them, obviously, because of the ice conditions. I'll have a spoon, whether it's a ribbon spoon or a flutter spoon, one of the two, or both. And I will definitely have a pinhead, a bigger one, and a Tikka.
Mm-hmm.
So the Tikka and the pinhead, they're going to be my search baits. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go out and pound them hard and see if I draw anything in. And if I catch a fish on them and the rest of them come in and they sniff and, I want to stick around in the area, I'll probably throw a ribbon spoon or a leech spoon, a flutter spoon. And I'm really on Mille Lacs. I love blue and white rattling spoons. It's been my ticket.
Like a rainbow.
Yeah, you got
rainbow colored.
Yeah. It, rattling, it draws them in.
Yeah, rattling PT. I got a chance to use it a whole bunch on Lake of the Woods a few weeks ago. Yeah, they either bit the rattling PT or they bit the drop double XL.
Yeah,
with a minnow. I mean, that was, I know I'm not the kid. It was funny because we were up on Lake of the Woods. Jean-Paul Tessier, Ice Team Pro. Everyone knows JP. Legend. Lake of the Woods outdoorsman.
Great guy.
Legendary. We're up there fishing, doing some stuff with Greg Jones in Midwest Outdoors, having some fun. And in walks Jean-Paul, finds us in a fish house. Told him we were up there, and the guy's probably arguably one of the nicest humans this planet's ever seen. And he's like, I knew you were coming. I had to find you just to say hi. Just that's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah.
He comes in, and we're talking, and he's like, well, what are you guys catching your fish on? And he was fishing for information, too. He just had put his houses out. He had clients coming out, like, the next day. What's the bite like? And we were doing very well. The sportsmen's put us on some incredible fish. And that's what it was. It was 1/8 ounce rattling PT spoon in either Chartreuse Wonder Bread or Glow Pink and Gold, tipped to the minnow head. That was crushing them. And what was dominant over that was the drop double XL, which is a giant panfish jig. You use it all the time on Mille Lacs for walleyes, even in the summertime. And we were tail hooking a minnow. And you know what? JP looks at me and goes, huh, right back. JP walks to his truck. He had a geo tracker out there. They all run those early ice to shuttle houses. Comes walking right back in. JP had on rattling PT spoon, Chartreuse Wonder Bread, and his other rod, drop double XL. I looked over at Greg Jones and my kids, and I just kind of looked like, you got that right. And I'm like, the man himself just validated my jig offering, my lure offering, and I was like, yeah. And he's like, by far the most dominant lure I've used on Lake of the Woods the last 3 years in a row. Drop double XL.
I use that in the summer for catching panfish through the weeds. Like you, a bass guy, you punch through the weeds. I'll see them in there, and I'll try to find a pocket and punch through the weeds with that. And I remember Johnny Crane saying to me, "You're using that big of a jig?" Yeah. I said, "Yeah." So the next time I was out, I caught this little teeny gill, just a little dinky thing. And I took a picture of it and I said, "Even the little ones love it."
Yeah.
I remember one year I called you up and said, "Hey, Matt, where are these double X's? You got any?" He says, "Yeah, I got a few, but I ain't got a lot." And then he says, "Come on down, I'll give you what I got."
You came to my house.
Yeah, because that under a bobber on Mille Lacs with a leech, and the way that thing's designed, it gives that kind of like the drop kick. It gives that leech an extra kick, and the walleyes just destroy it. They love it.
You're a good friend, Mike, when I can give you some of my drop double XLs out of my own personal garage.
Oh, dude, I was on the phone calling everybody looking for him. What do you mean? What do you want those big things for?
What shocked me is you live probably, as the crow flies, 20 miles from me.
Yeah.
How'd you get there in 10 minutes?
Well, I was around the corner. Maybe one of your kids let me on and say he's got a whole bunch of them.
Man, well, Mike, we've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes. You and I both knew coming to this could last all afternoon. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We have some work we got to get back to. You probably got to check and see if Paul's got a pulse out there in the warehouse spooling reels.
He's out there singing to himself, I'll guarantee it.
Well, man, this is so much fun. Mikey, you have any parting words, anything you want to leave with our guests and our fans before we sign off here?
February 19th is my Kids Hooked on Fishing event. You can find it on right here. This Forever Hooked on Fishing is a Facebook page I run. Come on, join the page. I don't really put up with any, that crap that's going out there. If there's bad posts on it, I just delete it. I keep it all great, fun.
Keep it clean,
Yep, keep it clean, keep it neat. Out on the lakes this year, guys, I know the laws change, but you see garbage out there, just pick it up. Bring it home. I've often kind of pushed to see that some of the retailers or whatever you get a bag at the show, keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Put your garbage in it. I mean, we used to have recycled fish that used to do that stuff all the time, but and go out there and make some memories. That's what it's all about. It isn't about, to me, it isn't about catching fish. It's all about memories. I remember having you and your kids that one day out on the lake at North Metro there, and one kid steps in the hole, and we had a great
Shocker.
time. We had a great time that day, though.
Yeah. We saw eagle, bald eagle came down and fed right next to us and hung out with us for a while.
Those are memories you don't forget, I mean, I talk to Jack, he'll say, "Yeah, I remember when we were out there. That was a great time."
He does. No, I have that picture in my office of us sitting in front of the fish house holding up them crappies. No, you're spot on, Mike. Forever Hooked on Fishing. Search them up on social media. February 19th, kids event. You can learn more on there. Stuff happening there. Gonna have a whole lot of fun. Mike, good luck this weekend, dude.
Hey, just a big shout out to Vexlar. I ended up taking my unit into him because something was bothering me. It was making a weird noise, but it worked fine. And I had to go down there for something anyways. And I thought, I'll bring it down there and have him look at it. And Waldron pulled it off. And before I even get home, I got an email saying that your Vexlar shipped.
Yeah.
I'm going, are you kidding me? So I sent Waldron a message, Matt Waldron. I says, "Hey, did you already fix my unit?" He says, "Yeah, you should be getting it any day now."
Yeah.
The next day, it's sitting on my doorstep. I mean, that's customer service that you just don't get, I mean, so kudos to those guys too.
Yep. They got it going on. They have a wonderful staff, longtime partner of ours. And it's funny, Corey just called me.
Oh, did he?
I looked over at my phone. It was ringing a second ago, and there's Corey Studer.
His ears are burning.
His ears were burning. He wanted to. I should have just chimed in and had him on speakerphone. It would have been entertaining.
Yeah, it would have been great.
But, dude, good luck this weekend. I know you're chasing down. Say hi to your brother for me. I love him. Tell him to let you catch some fish once in a while. Say hi to Rita.
Yep.
Sounds like a good time. And good luck on Mille Lacs.
Yeah, we'll bust the grill out this weekend.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, making memories, man. All of it, that's all we really have, our memories.
Yep.
So same with you. If you need anything, give me a call, and hopefully we run into each other on the ice.
You got it. All right, brother.
All
You
right.
guys, everyone, Mike Rodger joining us today at another episode of the Ice Team Podcast. Thanks a ton for listening and tuning in. We got a bunch more coming at you this season. And if you want, you can hop on YouTube. You can hop on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Listen and watch any of the past episodes. Get some information going. On behalf of Mike and Matt, we'll catch you next time. Take care.